All right, let's get right into it. Today we're diving deep into Rust.
Specifically, the December 5th dev blog and patch notes. Lots to unpack.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty hefty update this time around. Some really cool stuff in there. Modular car radios, a variable zoom scope. Things are about to get interesting.
Right. What I find interesting is how much of this seems to be driven by player feedback. Lots of quality of life changes, some rebalancing.
Like they're actually listening, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels very community focused.
Okay, but before we get lost in the patch notes, can we just take a second to acknowledge Rust just turned 11.
11 years. It's insane how much this game has evolved. Think about all the stuff they've added this year alone.
I mean, backpacks.
Backpacks, the tutorial island, motorbikes.
Motorbikes.
Yeah, and now they're celebrating with cake and balloons in-game, plus a 50% discount for friends.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Get some new players in for the holidays.
Absolutely.
But you know what we really want to talk about? Quality of life changes.
Yes, and there are a lot of them. Some small tweaks, but they make a big difference.
Like the fridge storage increase.
Yeah.
Finally.
Right. You can actually hoard all that food now.
No more juggling inventory space. And get this. The junk piles, the ones that are partially looted,
Gone.
they despawn now. No more landscape clutter.
It's the little things. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, and work carts have storage now.
That is huge. So much more convenient.
Speaking of convenient, the propane tank stack size increase. Thank goodness.
It makes resource management so much easier. You can stockpile more, plan ahead.
It's not just about convenience, though, right?
No, it actually adds a layer of strategy, like how much propane do I need? When do I need to refuel?
And it ties in nicely with the other base building changes, like the increased Dropbox input slots.
Oh, yeah. More slots in the Dropboxes is huge for base building.
Huge. Resource sharing, base layout, it just makes everything smoother.
Smoother and more strategic.
Okay, let's talk about something a little more wild.
Wild.
Wolf pack balancing. I've got to admit, those wolves could be a little much sometimes.
I hear you. The relentless chases, those crazy jumps they would do.
And sometimes you'd run into, like, a mega pack of 8 wolves.
Yeah, it was a bit intense.
Yeah.
But they've made some significant changes.
Did they finally nerf those jumps?
They did. They reduced their overall speed too and made their movements less robotic.
Less robotic and more natural, you mean?
Right. And they've limited how many packs can merge together, so no more super packs.
Thank goodness for that. What about counterplay, though? Anything new there?
Definitely. Torches and sneaking are more effective now.
So you can actually deter them a bit?
Yeah. It gives you more options for avoiding those encounters, or at least giving yourself a fighting chance.
So it's not just about making them weaker. It's about...
Balance. Finding that sweet spot between challenge and fun.
I like that. Speaking of making things easier, let's talk about the electricity quality of life changes.
Oh, yes. The base builders are going to love these. Tesla coils use less power, elevators are faster.
And we finally have a battery full charge indicator output.
The Tesla coil change is interesting. It still has the same kill time, but it just uses less power overall.
That's huge.
Right?
More sustainable defense.
Absolutely.
And the storage monitor. It has a pass-through slot now.
No more daisy chaining.
It's one of those things, you're in the middle of base building, you're like, finally.
I know, right?
Oh, and the elevators. 50% speed boost.
No more crawling up the side of your base. It's a game changer.
It changes the whole feel of moving around your base. Less waiting, more
Right.
doing.
Exactly.
Okay, before we move on, I'm curious. What are you most excited about in this update?
That's a tough one. But honestly, I think it's the car radios.
Wait, car radios?
Yeah.
Like, we could actually have music in our cars now.
We can.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe it took them this long.
I know, right? It's not just about the fun factor either. It adds so much to the atmosphere and immersion.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine rolling up to an enemy base, blasting your crew's theme song.
Psychological warfare.
So how do they actually work?
You craft them. 120 metal fragments. You do need to own the voice props pack, though.
Okay, so not exactly free.
Right. But once you have it, you just deploy it on the cockpit of your modular vehicle.
Easy enough.
Yeah. And it only works when the engine is running.
Makes sense. Can't just sit there, engine off, blasting music and draining the battery.
Exactly. It also adds some interesting possibilities for communication and coordination, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Coordinating during a raid, using music as a distraction.
The possibilities are endless.
Okay, tell me about this helicopter shredding. This one sounds interesting.
It's for the raiders out there. If you've ever stolen a helicopter and wished you could just turn it into scrap,
You can.
You can't.
You're telling me I could just grab a helicopter with a magnet crane and chuck it in the shredder?
Yep. And you get scrap rewards based on the type of helicopter.
How much are we talking?
A minicopter gets you 200 scrap,
Yeah.
scrap transport helicopter, 300, and an attack helicopter, 500. That's a sweet deal. Instant reward for your risky endeavors. Right, it adds a whole new dimension to raiding. Do you risk trying to keep the helicopter, or do you shred it for a guaranteed payout?
I'd probably shred it. I'm not the best pilot.
Fair.
Okay, last one for now. The variable zoom scope. This seems like a pretty big deal.
Oh, it is. Especially for those long-range engagements. It's a massive upgrade from the old 4X and 8X scopes.
So what's so special about it?
Imagine this. One scope, 3 zoom levels, 4X, 8X, and 16X.
Wait, 16x zoom. That's insane.
It is. It's incredibly versatile. You can use it for close to medium-range fights, long-range sniping, and everything in between.
No more choosing between different scopes.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate scope.
Exactly.
I can already see the YouTube montages sniping people from across the map.
It's going to change the long-range meta for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And it just shows how the devs are always trying to improve the core gameplay, even after all these years.
Okay, let's take a breather. We'll be back in a bit to dive into some of the smaller but equally interesting updates. There's still a lot to cover.
All right, ready for some of those smaller updates? Some of them are really interesting.
Hit me with them. You know, I love those little details that can really shake things up.
How about this? Landmines. 15% chance of exploding when you try to disarm them.
Wait, seriously? So now it's like a gamble?
Exactly. Makes clearing out those minefields a lot more tense, right?
Oh, yeah. No more casually sprinting through, hoping for the best. You got to think twice now.
You do. Okay, another one. They've almost doubled the visibility underwater.
Really? That's going to make exploring those dive sites so much easier.
Right, you can actually see what you're doing now, and they've also increased the depth you can dive before you run out of oxygen.
So you can spend more time down there exploring those wrecks and stuff.
Nice. Okay, what about this one? Node sparkle change.
This is one of those under-the-radar tweaks that actually has a bigger impact than you might think.
What do you mean? It just sounds like a visual thing, right? Well, on the surface, yeah. The sparkles that appear when you're gathering resources from nodes, those don't show up until you hit the node for the first time.
Okay.
But this actually helps with performance because each sparkle was like this networked entity the server had to track. Fewer sparkles, less strain on the server.
So better performance for everyone. That's always a good thing.
It is. But here's the interesting part. Because that first hit now counts as a sparkle hit. It's actually a tiny buff to ore gathering.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So you get the resources for that first hit, even though the sparkle doesn't show up until after.
Exactly. It's like a little reward for paying attention.
I like it. It's a subtle change, but it makes a difference. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the stuff for server owners and modders.
Yeah, there's a lot in here for them.
Because those are the folks who really keep the Rust community going. They deserve some love.
Absolutely. Server owners, they've got new vending machine statistics now.
So they can track transactions, see what's selling well.
Revenue, even their best customers. Imagine having that kind of data for your server.
You could really understand player behavior, maybe adjust prices based on demand. It's a business, right?
It is. And then there's some serious Archon security enhancements as well.
Yeah, security is important. Yeah. Especially for those popular Rust servers.
Right. They've beefed up security to prevent brute force attacks, and they've added more options for managing bans and security settings, more control for server owners.
All about keeping those servers safe. And of course, we can't forget about the modders. New prefabs for map making and modding.
Tons of them. Colored wood panels, road and tarmac tiles, radiation volumes, static fire prefabs, all sorts of cool stuff.
So much creative potential. I can't wait to see what kind of custom maps and game modes people come up with using these new tools.
It's going to be awesome. It really shows you how important the modding community is to Rust.
Absolutely. Okay, before we wrap things up, can't forget about Christmas.
Oh yeah, Christmas and Rust.
Always a fun time. Any idea what they have planned?
They're keeping it under wraps for now. But we know there's a mandatory update coming on December 16th to enable all the festivities.
Mark your calendars, folks.
Yeah.
December 16th.
It'll be interesting to see what they do.
I'm hoping for some snow, maybe a Santa hat for our characters.
We'll have to wait and see.
I'm telling you, that was a lot to cover. This is a massive update.
It is. I mean, they really went all out this time. It's like they took everything players have been asking for and just boom.
It's that constant evolution that's what keeps Rust going.
Right. Always changing, always improving, and listening to the community, which is huge.
Yeah, they seem to be really paying attention to what players want. So, big question. Where do you think Rust goes from here?
That's a tough one. I mean, 2024 has been a big year for us, so what's next? Bigger map,
Ooh, a bigger map would be cool.
right? Or maybe some entirely new gameplay systems. We've had electricity, now we have cars. What's the next big thing?
I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. I have a feeling they might focus even more on the modding tools.
That would make sense. The modding community is so important to Rust, it's what keeps things fresh and interesting.
Exactly. Imagine if they gave modders even more power. The possibilities would be endless.
No kidding. We could see some really crazy stuff.
Okay, last question. If you could pick one thing, just one thing you'd love to see in Rust in 2025, what would it be?
You know, I've thought about this a lot. And as much as I love the new features, the gadgets, all that, I think what would really take Rust to the next level is a deeper story.
A story. Like lore.
Yeah. Imagine uncovering hidden secrets about the world, learning about the history of the island.
Maybe even some kind of overarching narrative.
Exactly. It would give players a reason to explore, a reason to delve deeper into the world.
Right now, it's mostly about survival.
Right.
But a good story could change everything. It would add a whole new dimension to the game.
It really would. And who knows, it could even lead to new gameplay mechanics, quests, factions.
The possibilities are endless. Okay, I think we've officially reached peak Rust excitement for one deep dive. But this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Right, we want to hear from you.
What are you most excited about in this update? What changes would you like to see in the future? Head over to our forums and let us know.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay rusty.